Hey guys, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with a comparison video. And today we have two very similar, very popular options. We have the Spyderco Gayle Bradley 2 and the Benchmade Super Freek. Both of these, I think, would be on a lot of people's short list for the very best folding knife available. They both have a ton to offer. Both of them are a little on the expensive side. Both are very well done in terms of fit and finish and quality, and of course, two very reputable companies. So I could really see someone looking for a really nice high-end EDC to be looking at either one of these two knives and asking which one should I buy, especially if they're wanting the M4 steel. And that's of course one of the big selling points for both of these. Not everyone is going to be a fan of M4 steel because it's not totally stainless, but many people are, and for good reason. The performance on it is outstanding. So the question is, where do you put your money? Do you go out and buy yourself a Benchmade Super Freek, or do you buy yourself a Spyderco Gayle Bradley 2? Let's start off with size and weight. The criteria I'm going to use, as usual, are size, weight, and how easy they are to carry, blade, lockup and deployment, and finally the handle. And under handle, I also kind of consider looks in there as well. So we could almost break that into two categories, but we won't for simplicity's sake. Size, weight, and how it carries. These two are very similar. 8 and 7/16 overall on the Gayle Bradley, 3 and 5/8 on the blade, 4 and 13/16 on the handle. So that's just a hair over 4 and 3/4. 4 inches of grip area, and this weighs in at 4.39 ounces. All right, so that's the Gayle Bradley. What about the Super Freek? 8.5 inches, so only a 1/16 of an inch difference there. 3 and 9/16 on the blade, so again only a 1/16 of an inch difference there. 4 and 7/8 on the handle, again it's the blade is a 1/16 of an inch shorter, the handle is a 1/16 of an inch longer, and finally 3 and 5/8 grip area, so not quite as much grip area. So if you have really large hands, I guess that would be one area, and I think you can see there now because of this angle and this angle, you don't have quite as much real estate for your fingers there. But lastly, 4.36 ounces, 4.36 ounces. So in terms of how big these knives are, how comfortable or uncomfortable they are in your pocket, these are so close. And that's one of the things that makes them so comparable. If you're like me and you like a knife about this size, these are both right in that sweet spot. And so we really, everything is so close together. The only benefit that I could see in terms of how these two carry is you may opt for the Benchmade because of the options. You can see I have a deep carry clip on this. Benchmade will send you different clips, and they'll do it for free, which is quite a nice touch. Spyderco, not so much. This has the typical Spyderco clip, and that's kind of what you're going with. All right, so that's really the only substantial difference when it comes to carrying these around in your pocket. Otherwise, this is a tie. All right, they're just so close that you really can't say one is way better than the other. Moving on to the blade, though, we're going to see a bit more of a substantial difference. So both of them are M4, okay? But on the Gayle Bradley, we have a hollow grind compared to the high flat grind on the Freek. Both of them are actually the same stock thickness, so 116 thousandths on the blade stock for both. All right, we've got a little more belly on the Freek. The hollow grind on the Gayle Bradley does make it very thin behind the edge. I guess that's not what makes it thin behind the edge, but it does contribute to that, certainly. This is only 16 thousandths behind the edge, which means it's going to slice like crazy. The Super Freek is going to be a little more substantial at 22 thousandths behind the edge. Now, both of these, again, are M4 steel. We've already talked about that. You may like the look of one a little bit better. For me, I definitely like satin better than the black coating. I wish there was a satin Super Freek. All right, now the big difference here is slicing capability. And I have to tell you guys that side by side, and before I did this video, I did a bunch of cutting and I kind of went back and forth trying to decide. And there really is a noticeable difference in terms of how the Gayle Bradley pushes into material. When you're cutting with this, it works so well. It really, really is exceptional. And so from that standpoint, so for those two reasons, one, the hollow grind, which I generally like better anyway. I like hollow grinds because they do exactly what I'm saying. They get into material a little easier. Um, so because of the hollow grind and because of the satin finish, Gayle Bradley gets the win on the blade. And it really, you can actually notice it as you try to push these through various substrates, whether it be cardboard or foam. And I purposely tried stuff where, it might be a little bit sticky or where edge geometry would matter. And the Gayle Bradley really does stand out as a better cutter. Over to lockup and deployment. This is again a pretty significant difference. You can see the Gayle Bradley is a liner lock with a Spidey hole, so you can Spidey flick this, you can thumb open it. The Super Freek, very well known Benchmade axis lock. You can, by the way, Spidey flick it as well. Both of them have very nice, enjoyable actions. Both of them are easy to use. Some people have complained that the Gayle Bradley 2, the liner lock, is hard to get a hold of, but I don't know. I think that's just kind of carryover from the Gayle Bradley 1, which it legitimately did have a liner lock that was a little hard to get a hold of. So this one is pretty easy, guys. The axis lock is definitely more fidget friendly. It's faster. It's a little more enjoyable overall. And so pretty easy win for the Super Freek here. And that's, you could put any Benchmade here. The axis lock really, really is good. Okay, so not a whole lot to say on that. I think we're all familiar with liner locks, we're all familiar with the axis lock, and we're familiar with how they function. Let's move over to the handle because there are maybe more substantial differences here. So the Gayle Bradley is sort of what people like about it, and I think with good reason, is that it's got a very classy look to it. It's sort of a gentleman's folder. If this makes sense, it's like a hard use gentleman's folder. Okay, so it kind of looks classy. It looks like you could carry it in a pair of dress pants or to, in an office environment, and yet it's completely capable. It's an extremely well built, well suited for use type of knife, but it looks pretty nice and looks dressed up a little bit. The Super Freek, it's equally usable and equally comfortable in hand and all that stuff. It doesn't look as classy, right? This is sort of an EDC with a tux on, and this is like jeans and a t-shirt type of stuff. The other thing that I have to consider here is, look at that layer G10, the red liners, the red standoffs. So from a design standpoint, I really think the Super Freek brings a lot to the table. It just doesn't dress itself up quite as much, but I have to say I'm pretty drawn to this design. So that's the sort of design comparison. In terms of the way these two feel in hand and how they're built, the Benchmade does feel better, guys. The Gayle Bradley is very comfortable, and I can't. It's not fair to really complain about this. We've got the laminated carbon fiber over G10 with proud stainless steel liners, and they are full liners. It feels good in hand. There's no question. It's not an uncomfortable knife at all. Okay, but what about compared to the Super Freek? And the fact is, in a saber grip, which is the one I most often use, the Super Freek really does feel fantastic because of that 3D contouring. So for both, the look of this knife as well as the feel in hand, again, we've got to give it to the Benchmade as being just a little bit better. And when I say just a little bit better, I mean just a little. Both of these are super comfortable. Both of them are super attractive. It's just, the Benchmade is just a little bit better. All right. And so if I had to give up one of these knives, and I don't plan on doing that, I really, really like both of these. In fact, the Gayle Bradley I specifically got so that I could upgrade it. I want to switch these out to my Carta scales, and I was talking to Sharp Dressed Knives about doing that. So having put all that stuff out there, the fact that I really, really love both of these, but if you like held a gun to my head and said, you have to give up one of these knives, you can only keep one of the two, I would keep the Super Freak. And perhaps I would go a little further with the Super Freak and say this, if there was like one best EDC folder overall, I think the Super Freak would probably be it. You know, would the Gayle Bradley round out the top 5 or the top 10? Absolutely, it would. It's a fantastic knife, and I would take this over lots of popular. You know, I would take this over a PM2. I would take this over a Griptilian. I would take this over a lot of other knives, but I wouldn't take it over a Super Freak. So there you go, guys. That is my comparison between these two fantastic EDC folders. I would love to hear you guys disagree with me down in the comments below. I would also ask you to check out my affiliate link. I'll put that down in the description. Good source for both of these knives. Of course, when I say that, guys, going to DLT, using that link, it does help the channel, but I'm not asking you to pay more, okay? If somewhere else has a better price on something, buy it there for sure. But if it's the same price, or if it's something that only DLT carries, using that affiliate link does help the channel out quite a bit. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We will talk to you soon.